Welcome everyone to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy and I am an alcoholic.
And my name's Mick, and I am also an alcoholic, serving as your secretary, joint secretary with Mossy. Please join me in a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic, both inside and outside this meeting.
Sonia's on the preamble.
Hi everybody, I'm Sonia, I'm an alcoholic. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Thank you for letting me do service.
Thank you. A very warm welcome goes out to any newcomers or anyone returning to Alcoholics Anonymous.
And that's it, guys. I've made a bit of a boo-boo today, but it's a good boo-boo. I've, in my wisdom, asked 3 people to share, and my forgetter didn't work, so we're going to have 2 of them sharing today and cut down the sharing time for the members afterwards. So we have Cherie, who's celebrated 59 years last year, and Jack OH is joined us as well, and I'm really looking forward to both the stories because I've heard the 2 of them speak. We'll go ladies first today, if that's okay with you. Cherie, you're very welcome to the Canarian International Group, and I apologise for the mix-up, but I'm really delighted to have both of you here with me. Thanks.
Thanks, Mossy. No worries. You know, everything's in divine order. God's always in charge. Hi, everyone. My name is Cherie Johnson. I'm a recovered alcoholic. And thanks, Mossy, for asking me. My sobriety date is June 6, 1965, which means if I stay sober for the next, 4 some months, I might make it to a whole 60 years. And that blows my mind. 6 decades. Oh, my God. Anyway, I believe I'm blessed to be an alcoholic because I've been given the tools to live life to the fullest without drama, anger, fear. I have discovered a God of love and one I do understand. I know a lot of people say they don't understand God, but I understand my God. He's loving, kind, non-judgmental, and always available. And I also hear playing God is not a good thing, but I wish I could play God as I know God, because I'm not always loving, kind, non-judgmental, and available. But yeah, I still have a lot to learn. I still have a lot to growth. And in fact, just today I did something with my husband that I got a little huffy when I was trying to explain something to him. And it just, it blows me away that with this much sobriety that I still have these characteristics, somebody calls them defaults, defects of character, whatever. I still have stuff to work on. I ain't done yet. I still got a long way to go. So anyway, I've had a perception problem and I still have a perception problem. Just ask my husband as he tries to explain some things to me. I grew up with an alcoholic. My mom was an alcoholic, and she'd be sitting on the back porch in the sun with a glass of alcohol in one hand, a cigarette in the other when I'd come home from school. She'd hide in the bathroom to drink. Of course, I didn't know that's what she was doing at the time. I learned that later when she got sober. She gambled on horses and spent money like crazy. And she'd write notes and leave home. She'd run away from home and write notes about what an unworthy mother she was. And then, of course, my dad would, being the enabler, would go after her and bring her home. I don't know if she ever blacked out, but I do know she found AA at the age of 42, November 1st, 1960. The doctors had given her 6 months to live because of what had been so destroyed in her body from alcohol. But she beat them all. She lived another 18 years. And I know it's because she jumped into AA with both feet. And she spent those years in love and service. And she was my able example. You know, I wanted what she had. I was a high bottom drunk, unlike her. I didn't have DUIs. I didn't make any institutions. She did. And I still have a lot of yets that need to be filled. But I was able to come into AA at 18. And I think, hang on one second. It should be on the table. I don't know. Maybe it's outside. I'm sorry. Let's see. I know institutions. Okay, mom had one. I came in when I was 18, and I think it was primarily because my mother never said that I was an alcoholic. And I forgot to start my timer. I always forget to do that. She never told me I was an alcoholic. The only thing she told me was, if you're going to drink, don't do it in my house. And so I didn't. I drank everywhere else. I came in feeling with that same unworthiness. I felt apart from. Like you stand outside and you look in the window at the warm lights, and the ideas that come to mind is, oh, it looks so happy in there. It's not always the way it looks, but that's how I felt. It took a bit of writing and putting the steps into living action to find my way out of that feeling. But my mom was an able example of living AA, and I did want what she had. So I jumped in with both feet and hit the service road of AA like she did, and I've never left. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about today. I had an idea a couple days ago. I thought I was going to talk about something, and I woke up this morning and I had a completely different idea. And so when I came to my computer, I just opened up the big book to see what was there, and I opened it to the story, the keys of the kingdom, and it's one of my favorite stories. And there's a bunch of stuff in here that I just kind of like to, I'm going to say, jump off of. It's one of the things I hear some people say is that the big book is written in a language they don't understand. I guess that's some of the young people that come in, but hey, I was 18 when I got here, and it didn't matter what it said. I wanted what they had. I just needed to look up words that I didn't understand. I don't know if that's something people can't do nowadays, but anyway, the big book for me has always been very important. And the person that wrote this book, or wrote this story, on the top of page 273, it says, about the book, it explains so much I did not understand about myself, and best of all, it promised recovery if I would do a few simple things and be willing to have the desire to drink be removed. And and I think about that, and to have the desire to drink removed, that's a promise, and there's promises all over this book. I always thought that there was only 12, but there's tons of promises. But just to think that it's a promise to have the drink removed. And then a little further down, no, that's not what I want to say. Yeah. On the next page, it says, I was ready and willing to go to the ends of the earth if that's what it took for me to find what these people had. And when I came into the program, people told me that if I could spend 50% of my energy or time, at least 50% of my energy and time in attempting to stay sober, that chances are I would probably make it. But I had to put in the effort, and that willing to go to any lengths. I mean, it's and that's part of it. I had to be willing to do whatever was necessary, willing to go to the ends of the earth. I don't know if somebody would have asked me when I first got here if I was willing to go to the ends of the earth to stay sober. I'm not sure that I would have said yeah, but I know I was willing to go to any lengths to not take that first drink. And for me, that was important. I never took drinks. I always took drunks. I was not a social drinker. I was a drunk, drunker. I don't know. I drank cases of beer. I didn't go have a social glass of wine. I was never that kind, and I doubt that I ever would be. Um, and then it says, let's see what willing to go to any lengths. I have little note thingies because I don't remember a lot. Yeah, admitting, willing to go to any lengths for me. I admitted that I was an alcoholic when I got here. It was in February of 1965, and I intellectually admitted it. But I couldn't jump into service. I couldn't get everything that is promised to this book. Like one of the things, not only were they at peace with themselves, but they were getting a kick out of life. That kind of stuff wasn't going to happen to me until I hit that point of acceptance. I had to accept in my innermost self that I was an alcoholic before anything could change. As long as I was just admitting it, I had reservations. There was something, I wouldn't have told you I had reservations, but as I look back, just admitting it kind of left the door open. It's like the word suggested. It says in the book, here are the steps we took, which are suggested, as a road to recovery. And that, in my mind, that word leaves the door open. However, suggested, when they talk about suggested in this book, it's like the cops suggest you get into the car. It's suggested that you wear a parachute when you jump out of a plane. That's the kind of suggested things that this program is all about. I really didn't have a choice. If I wanted what they had, I had to do what they did. Let's see, what else do I want? There's there's something that this author says: nothing in their lives took precedence over their response to call for help from some alcoholic in need. They would travel miles and stay up all night with someone they had never laid eyes on before and think nothing of it. I was blessed in that I lived with my mother when she got sober her first 5 years in the program while I was still drinking, just getting seeds planted in my brain about Alcoholics Anonymous. But back in the 60s, there was no, what do you call them? Anyway, there was no place to take people that had to, drying out places. There was no drying out places. And so we had to make calls on so-called wet drunks. And I remember one morning, 3 a.m. in the morning, she got me up and she says, we're going to make a 12-step call. This guy needs our help. And it's like, okay. So, I get out of bed, I go with her, and we sat up with him for the next few hours and ended up taking him to a hospital because that's all we could do. That's going to any length. So I actually got to experience the going to any lengths way before I got in the program. I got to experience what part of giving, was all about. And then on the next page, on 275, he says, I could never have accomplished this alone. And, it's a we program. It's an absolute we program. I cannot do this alone. Even today, with 59 years of sobriety, left to my own devices, who knows where the hell I'd be. I need people in my life. I learned, and now that I don't have my timer, I don't know what I've got. I was in Hawaii for a while. I was helping my sister. My dad had some dementia, and my sister was, caretaking him. So I went to help her for a month. And I hadn't gone to a meeting for 3 weeks. And it wasn't like I was thinking about drinking. I didn't have any idea about drinking. But I was kind of missing something. I really wasn't sure what it was. So I decided that I needed to find myself a meeting. And in Hawaii, meetings are generally in pavilions, outdoors and stuff, which is really nice. And I walked into this quote unquote room in the pavilion. And the minute I walked in, even though I didn't know anybody, the minute I walked in, I felt like I'm home. I felt the connection. So what I was missing was the connection, and that's the we, and that's the fellowship of the program. The fellowship is the meetings. I need the fellowship. I need the meetings. I need people to give me feedback. But the program, what keeps me sober is the 12 steps and the principles. And, I can read those and I can study those, but I still need people to help me understand some of the things that I don't understand. And I have to tell you, sometimes I think I understand more than I do. And then right after all of this, there's all these promises. I didn't realize until I opened up this morning, because I usually mark where promises are. And on page 275, starting just in the middle of the first paragraph, the rest of the page is full of promises. I began to acquire faith and philosophy to live by. Whole new vistas were opened up for me, new adventures of experience to be explored, and life began to take on color and interest. In time, I found myself looking forward to each new day with pleasurable anticipation. I couldn't say it better. That's kind of what happened to me. The world opened up to me, and all of a sudden, life held meaning, and I was excited. AA is not a plan for recovery that can be finished and done with. It is a way of life, and the challenge contained in its principles is great enough to keep any human being striving for as long as he lives. We cannot outgrow this plan, and I am here to tell you that that's absolutely true. I have never outgrown this plan. I don't think I ever can. As I said, like even this morning, when I think everything's good and my life's pretty drama-free, however, I can create the drama. I always have the tools with me. I always have to use them. I don't ever, ever get to sit back and say, that's it. I don't have to do anymore. I've been here long enough. I've gone to enough meetings. I've been through these steps hundreds of times. I've read that book 1,000 times. I know it all. I don't have to do anything else. I just have to not drink. The problem with that is I may not drink, but I may not be happy, joyous, and free. In order for me to live what Bill Wilson talked about as being the fourth dimension of life, which for me is emotional sobriety, in order for me to live in emotional sobriety, I have to stay connected. And the only way I can stay connected is keep going to meetings and keep talking to people and keep, reading the books. And I have sponsees. I'm still in service in my home group. I just took on being treasurer for the next 2 years. And I didn't want to do that because that's a commitment. That means that I got to show up. I'd rather, maybe I don't want to go today. Let's see. Keeping one foot in front of the other is essential for maintaining our arrestment. Let's see, what else was here? This isn't enough as it sounds. As we do become grateful for the necessity that makes us toe the line, and we find that we are compensated for consistent effort by the countless dividends we receive. I am grateful. I said I'm grateful to be an alcoholic because I have tools. And because I have tools today, I do have a drama-free life for the most part. Nobody creates my drama but me. I used to play the victim. I was the victim for many years, even in the program. A good 10 years in the program, I was a victim. And I realized that somebody pointed it out to me, actually, that the 10th step axiom said, and it's in squiggly writing, which Joe and Charlie always said was very important. Whenever I'm disturbed, no matter what the cause, it says, there's something wrong with me, but I've come to believe that there's nothing wrong with me at all. But I need to look at me. If I am disturbed, no matter what the cause, I need to look at me. And when I started doing that, and I have to say, I didn't start until I was around 10 years sober, starting getting honest about that. When I started doing that, I couldn't be a victim anymore. I couldn't blame the things that went wrong with my life on somebody else. I would have loved to have blamed the little thing that happened this morning on my husband, but it wasn't me. I'm the one that reacted. I'm the one that had the huffy and puffy and, pissy mood. He didn't create that. I created that. And so I am continually learning to put that spiritual axiom into action in my life. and I have no idea how much more time I have.
You've got about 13 minutes.
Thank you, darling. So just a brief, I always love to talk about the promises, and not just the 9th step promises. For the first 4 years, I'm going to say a lot longer. For many years in the program, I thought the only promises in the big book were the 9th step promises, but nobody ever called them the 9th step promises. They just said, well, would you read the promises? And so I thought that was all there was, but there's promises everywhere in this book on, for a lot of the steps, and I don't know if these are step 2 or step 3 promises, but it says on page 63, we had a new employer, being all powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him. Now that's the kicker. If we kept close to him and performed his work well, there's all these little attachments, if you want to call them. You get this, but you got to do this if you want to get it. And then it goes on down. We became less and less interested in ourselves. All the promises on page 63 I've experienced, and then it says we were reborn. And it finally occurred to me that what that really meant was that I had that psychic change that it says that I have to have if I want to have continued recovery, and the book tells me that this is what I do to get recovered. And so I say I'm a recovered alcoholic. And then, there's on page, I think it's 75, there's promises. There's 7 promises for step 5. We can look the world in the eye. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. Our fears fall from us. We begin to feel in the nearness of our creator, and it goes on. And then of course you have there's actually a couple of promises for step 11, and step 12 is a promise in itself. Having had a spiritual awakening, it's guaranteed we got it if we want to do the work. And the chapter 2, there is a solution. That's a promise all by itself. There is a solution. And what a great promise when you come into the program and somebody says, hey, we have a solution. You don't have to drink anymore. And then the thing that I love to talk about, because people never do, and I love to point it out, if I could just get into my book, right? The 10th step promises. I have a gal, a sponsee, who's got 40 some years of sobriety. And the last time I visited her, I was talking to her about the 10th step promises. And she said, well, what are they? And I went, you're 45 years sober and you don't know where the 10th step promises are? Well, I have to say it took many years for me to find them, but they're on page 84 and 85, right after the 9th step promises, and it starts right when it says, this thought brings us to step 10. And then the other thing that I like to say is that, because I always hear that 10, 11, and 12 are our maintenance steps. That is not true. The big book does not say 10 and 11 and 12 are our maintenance steps. There's nowhere in there that says these are our maintenance steps. However, in step 10, it says we have entered the world of the spirit. Our next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. It should continue for our lifetime. So steps 10 and 11 are our growing steps. It says so. I have to continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding. And then, and I don't know why they put them here, because for me, step 10 promises for me are the promises of hope, because they talk about not drinking. They talk about what the Cave of the Kingdoms was talking about, where I don't have to drink anymore. It gets removed. And it starts off right on the bottom of page 84 with, we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as if from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally. Let's see, we are not fighting it, neither are we avoiding temptation. We feel as though we had been placed in a position of neutrality. We have not even sworn off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. We're neither cocky nor are we afraid. That is our experience. This is how we react. Here's the kicker again. So long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. And the way I keep in fit spiritual condition is continue to put the steps into living action, to continue with step 11. It says, it doesn't say, we continue, oh God, what's step 11? We have to improve our conscious contact with God. It doesn't say we do this once. It doesn't say, okay, one time, that's all. It says we continue. We have to continue to improve our conscious contact with God. I have a great God today. I have a loving God today. I had a horrible God when I came in here, but I have to continue to improve my conscious contact. So that means that I don't just sit and read about him. That means that I take him with me wherever I go. And for me, I have now gotten into the habit of talking to God. I talk out loud to God all the time. Especially like if I've lost something or whatever, it's like, okay, God, where is this? What do you think this is? So I have to continue to do this, and step 10 in that first paragraph, it all has all the other steps about that we have to continue for our lifetime. We have to continue to watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, we ask God at once. I don't know how many of you can do this, but I still, at 59 years, I still don't at once ask God to remove them. It takes me a little while. It doesn't take me 2 weeks like it used to. It may take me 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, just a few minutes. But I have not gotten to the place where I can at once go, okay, I'm going to ask you to remove this. No, I got to think it through. Every day is a day we must carry the vision of God's will in all our activities. I went through the book. The first time I went through, I counted all the musts. And then I wrote that however many musts were at the end of each chapter. And then I went through and I counted how many times God or spirit or something higher power was referenced. And I wrote that on the end of each chapter. So I've been through this book numerous times. And the greatest time that I've had going through this book was during COVID, when I got to go to a big book study in India. And they went paragraph by paragraph. And I do mean paragraph by paragraph. I learned so much from that meeting, so much more about this book. My mom used to say it was the most spiritual book ever written. And I thought, okay. And the more I go through it, the more spiritual it gets. It's like my mind opens up, and it tells me in the appendices, I'm not going to go there, but it tells me I have to have willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness, and these are essential. I have to keep my mind open. I have to continue to be willing, and I have to continue to be honest. There's no place in here that says you've done it once, this is it. And there's a story in the book, or my home group reads through the whole book, including the stories. And there is a story that somebody said, there's no place in this big book that says you have done the 12 steps. Congratulations, go live your life. No, every story I read in this book says we have to continue. And this tells me this, I've entered the world of the spirit, which basically says
5 or 6 minutes.
Thanks, darling. Which means that I have entered the fourth dimension. I now live in the fourth dimension that Bill talks about. I live in emotional sobriety today. I respond to life today. I don't react to life today. And I think that probably for me is the greatest definition of what emotional sobriety is. I used to react. I reacted to everything, and I made everything everybody else's fault. Today I respond. If you say stuff that bothers me, I have to look at me. My button's being pushed. It's my button. You pushed it, yeah, but it's my button, and I have to be responsible for what I think, what I feel, what I say, and what I do. I am responsible. Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a way to live that gives me tools to take responsibility for my life, that has given me a God, a loving God. And I use the ocean, and I won't go into where all that is, but I have everything I need today. I have a relationship today that is based on honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. He has a program he works with Al-Anon, and we communicate. We talk to each other. We don't talk at each other. I don't have to text him. I can talk to him. I have learned how to be a feeling, emotional human being, and I'm just really grateful. And yeah, my mother started it all, as far as I'm concerned. I believe I was born an alcoholic. It wasn't her fault, but I was born an alcoholic. I have the allergy of alcoholism. When I take a drink, I break out into a drunk, and that will happen for as long as I live. And it doesn't matter how long it's been since I had that drink, it will happen. And I choose to stay sober because it's easier to stay sober than it is to get sober. I don't want to start over. I just, I want to stay here. I want to continue to grow in effectiveness and understanding and continue to improve my conscious contact with God. Thank you, Mazi, for asking me. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. It was a pleasure to have you here. And I got so much from your story, and I identified so much from it. When I woke up on the 12th of July 1989, and I knew everything was my fault. For the first time in my life, I wasn't a victim. And I've never taken that back since. And the big book was thrown at me. I was told to read a line until I know what was in the line. Read a paragraph until I know what was in the paragraph, and read no more than a page a day. I had to know what was inside it. And I haven't had a drink or a drug since. And at that, thanks, Lisa, or Cherie. Jack, thanks for joining us as well today. It's a pleasure to have you here with the Canarian International Group.
Hi, Mosey. How are you? Can you hear me?
Good. Yeah, yes, indeed.
My name is Jack O'Howard. I'm a very grateful alcoholic. I have sobriety dated 3/28/76. Although my sobriety started a long time before that, I was introduced. I had a minder when I was a young man who was a famous Irishman. His name was Rip Collins, and he was Michael Collins' cousin, famous general from Ireland. And he was in one of the first AA people in Philadelphia. And he gave me the first edition of the pamphlet. AA's first thing was 106, 78 pages or something to read when I was 11 years old. And never said that I was an alcoholic. He just saw things in me that he knew what was coming. And so it opened my eyes to some things. But when I was 14 years old, I picked up a drink, and after he had passed away of cirrhosis of the liver, and I went on my journey. And 1962, I was in New York doing some business with some friends of mine, and one of them was a recovered alcoholic who got sober in Ohio with Dr. Bob. And he said, I want to take you to a meeting. And I said, sure, no problem. And he took me to a meeting of AA, and I met Bill Wilson. And Bill Wilson sat me down, and we talked for 3 hours. He went through the steps, the traditions, the concepts. We talked about the big book. He talked about how this thing started. Talked about the things that I needed to do for me if I wanted to be involved in AA. And we talked for like 3 hours, and then he looked me right in the eye, and he said, we'll be here, kid, when you're ready. I said, wait a minute, I'm here. I sat and listened to you for all this time, and I've taken in everything you said. He said, you're here because this gentleman brought you here, thinking I would say something to you that would keep you here. But until you come in this room for you and you alone, not for your job, your family, for you, you're not here. But we'll be here. I thought that was quite indignant. So I started to go to meetings and stuff, and I doing other things in the street and taking care of business. I was playing football, and I was doing professional sports, and I went in and out. Then Vietnam came, and I used to call Bill Wilson from Vietnam, and I never touched a drink in Vietnam, and he helped me to do that. It was miserable as hell, but then when I came home and got back into trying to do things, and in 1976, I got tired of being tired, and I was living in LA, and I went to a meeting, and I met a gentleman by the name of Mike Ross, who had gotten sober in 1942. So he was a long-term sobriety guy. He sat me down and we started the journey. And took me into the book, and we got into the big book. And he was a no-nonsense guy, like most of the old-timers were. And it was a daily journey. Every morning at 7 o'clock, I met him for coffee. And he put me into a program where I went to 4 meetings a day. And I got into the big book big time. And I learned that the solution that we have as an alcoholic is the steps are there to save me from me. The traditions are there to show me that I'm not alone in the world. And the concepts are there to show me that the steps and the traditions work together with the concepts is a solution that they put together. It took them 21 years to put that solution together. 5 years for the book and the steps, 15 years for the traditions, 21 years before the concepts were put into place. The amazing part about that is that in that period of time, 85% of us stayed in the room. Today, we're lucky if we keep 3% in the rooms. Just think about that. When they were putting this solution together and they were doing it on a daily basis, 85% of us stayed sober. Today, we're lucky if we keep 3% sobriety in the rooms consistently. So I learned that I have a daily reprieve. This is one of the best things they did was make this one day at a time. And I used to sit and play chess with a guy called Chuck C. in Radford Group in LA. And one day I'm sitting playing chess with him. He looked me in the eye and he said, I think I was sober about 8 or 9 months. How you feeling today, kid? I said, oh man, I'm on top of the world. I will never touch a drink again as long as I live. And he had a quirky manner about him. And he looked me in the eye and he said, still full of shit, huh, kid? I said, well, what are you talking about, man? I'm here. I talk to you every day. I do what I'm supposed to do. I read my book every day. He said, let me ask you a question. How many hours in the day are you awake? So I don't know, maybe 18, 20 on a bad day. He said, paying attention to something that gives you life. Is your life worth that? I never forgot that because he's right. Paying attention to something that gives me life. The big book of Alcoholics Anonymous gives me life. This is my way of living. These old timers taught me that I don't work this thing, I live it. And if I live it, it'll work me. The opposite way around. This is a way of life that I have to start from the time I open my eyes in the morning until I go to bed at night. And I never go to bed at night without reading page 86 and putting closure to my day. Because alcoholics have a terrible habit of carrying things from one day to the next. And it doesn't work that way. My sponsor, got me to where I burn certain pages into my brain every day. I read them every day of my life. Page 17, at the very bottom of the page of There is a Solution. It tells me the tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered common solution. We have a way out which can absolutely agree, and upon which we join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great fact, great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. Page 25 in the solution tells me that there is a solution. Almost none of us like the self-searching and leveling of pride, the confession of shortcomings, which the process requires for its successful consummation. But we saw that it really worked in others, and we had to come to believe in the hopelessness and futility of life as we had been living it, when therefore we were approached by those whom the problem had been solved. There was nothing left for us but to pick up a simple set of tools that were laid at our feet. We have found much of heaven, and we have been rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence, which we had never even dreamed. In other words, I have a set of tools that were given to me, that I have to pick them up, but I have to pick them up. Nobody can do this for me but me. I was shown something early in sobriety that the only person that can hurt me today is me. Nobody else can hurt me. It's up to me as an individual to pick this book up and do the things that it tells me to do. And this is such a spiritual book. And I read this book every single day of my life because I have a daily reprieve. And I'm not awake 24 hours. Think about that. How many hours in the day are you actually awake? Chuck C was a tremendous influence in my life because he was there every day. He drove great distances. My sponsor, Mike Ross, used to go 4 meetings a day, every day of his life. And I said to him one day, you've been sober all these years. Why do you go to all these meetings? And he said, where else would I go? All my friends are there. If I go somewhere else, I'll get in trouble. Showed me that I had to consistently think of a way of life that keeps me out of trouble. See, I suffer from a disease that's between my ears. And like Cherie said, I believe I was born with this disease. I didn't catch it. I didn't sit in the bar and drink too many drinks. I was ill content. That's why at 11 years old, this gentleman handed me a copy of the original big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because he was he saw in me traits that were coming. The irresponsibility of myself, the irrationalism of myself. This is a futile disease. There is no doctor in the world that can help me with alcoholism. The only person that can help me with alcoholism is another alcoholic. And if I don't give this away in a day, I don't keep it. Because I have to constantly remind myself. It makes no difference how long I'm sober. I could walk out of my house and the guy next door could slam his car door shut and it could annoy me and set me off on a tangent if I allow it. Chuck C taught me sometime, and my sponsor enumerated it. When I have a problem, and when I get up in the morning, first thing most people do, they go to the bathroom. I have a mirror on my way back. I look in the mirror and I look myself eyeball to eyeball and ask myself the question, what are you doing today? If you pick up a drink today, your life is going to shit. Then I beg that person in the mirror for the strength to do this one more time. And then I do my third step prayer. And I have a conversation with people. I constantly remind myself of what I need to do. Pick up a phone and call anybody all the time. I have sponsors in California. I live in Florida. I have sponsees in California. They call me every day. And I do the same with mine. It isn't that phone call is a chore that I have to do. It's an action that I need to do. There are actions in the day that I need to do to keep and maintain my sobriety. When I go through this book with other people, I do it line by line. Because I need to understand exactly what it's trying to tell me. I need to know that I have help and it's at my fingertips. There's never a place I go. I don't go anywhere without a big book. And it's a funny story. When I first got sober in 76, and every time I went to a meeting and I didn't carry a book with me, my sponsor would say, go over there and buy one of them books. So, Mike, I got a box of, no, you need to have a book with you right now. I wound up with a box of AA books because of my own foolishness. And it got me into the habit. I never go to a meeting without a book in my hand. I have a little book that I carry in my pocket. I have a book in my car. I have a book at my disposal anywhere I go. Because that's what I need to do. I need to be able to pick this thing up and open it up to certain pages and read certain things that bring my mind straight around again. Because my disease wants me to wander. I could be driving down the road and see billboards or advertising alcohol, advertising this, and start thinking about that and say, forget about it. Page 58 of the big book teaches me I had to burn this page in my brain. Mike Ross made me do that. But at the bottom of the page, in the last paragraph, it says, our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these, we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Let go absolutely. Let go of yesterday. I never go to a meeting and talk about drunken logs. It's a waste of time. What do I need to remind myself of yesterday for? What I need is a solution. So that's what I talk about. We have a solution. And that solution consists of 12 steps, 12 traditions, 12 concepts. It took them 21 years to put that together. But in doing so, they lived sober. So who am I to argue with that? 85% of them stayed sober. So that's what I do every day of my life. People can do as they want. If they want to suffer, that's up to them. I know for a fact I don't have to suffer today unless I choose to, unless I choose not to do the things in the day that I need to do. I keep a book around me all the time because I need to open it up and remind myself how foolish I could be if I allow myself to slide down that slope. This is the killingest disease in the world, bar none. This disease kills us in more ways than any other disease in the world ever thought of. And there's no doctor who can cure it. The only solution I have is in my hands right here. 168 pages of a book that teaches me how to live my life today. Live my life today. What a great acclaim. Something that allows me to open my eyes and be free of a deadly disease. I reach out to people every day because that's what I need to do. If I don't carry this, thank God for Zoom and the meetings that are online. Because I can go to there's an app. There's an app that meetings run 24 hours a day. No matter what time of the day you're up, you can go to a meeting. All you got to do is get a computer, open it up, boom. People are right there. All around the world. And I lived in Ireland. I opened meetings in Ireland. I lived in Dunlavin, right down south of Dublin. I lived there for several years. I lived in Belgium. I opened meetings in Belgium. I lived all through Europe. I've been in the film business for 49 years. So I traveled around the world a lot. Started a meeting in Belgium. God, I remember, funny, in the 80s. Started a meeting in Belgium, and we started the meeting with 4 people. And in Belgium at the time, if you worked for a corporation and they knew you were in AA, they'd fire you. That's how stringent those asses were. Foolishness. So we started this meeting with 4 people, and I was away for a couple of years. I went back over there and went to the meeting, and there was 120 people there. I said, wow, what a great meeting. He said, yeah, there's this crazy American come over here and started this big book meeting. And it just took off like a wildfire because it was needed. Someone had to show them there's a way to do this in the day, one day at a time. One day at a time. And if you put closure to your day at night, you wake up the next morning, it's a brand new day. Start your day out fresh. Open your eyes to the things and the problems that you need to take care of in the day. That's what the solution is about. We have a dynamic solution, not just about the steps. The steps are there to save me from me. That's the tools. The traditions open up the steps. If it wasn't for the traditions, I don't think we'd be around. They didn't put the traditions in place because the traditions tell me I don't talk about outside issues. We have a singleness of purpose, alcoholism. That's what we're here for. How do we live our lives today? I don't have to cry about what happened to me yesterday. That's gone. I can't change that. I can't change from the time I got up this morning till I'm sitting here talking to you right now. I can't change a damn thing that happened in this day. All I can do is learn from it. Just learn from it. If my mind starts to slide somewhere, I got a book I pick up and I find out, what am I doing wrong here? I can pick up a phone and talk to another alcoholic. Hey, how you doing today? To remind myself that we have a solution. 36 principles, 12 steps, 12 traditions, 12 concepts. You know, I've been to meetings and asked the question, how many people in this room have ever read the concepts? You'd be lucky if 2 people raise their hands. People don't realize the solution that we really have. And the concepts are just as important as the steps and the traditions. And the whole solution is an important solution for me as an alcoholic to live my life today, because I suffer from this disease between my ears. It isn't the first drink that I pick up. It's the thought of the first drink that I have to deal with. If I get to the first drink, I'm in trouble. It's the very thought of it that I've got to deal with. That's why there's so many spaces in the big book that are in italic form written. You should read them out loud to yourself. And if you can't do this book with another person, read it out loud so you hear what you're saying, so you understand what you're saying. So many people read the book and they read it like a novel, and they miss words, or they put their own words in, put their own feelings in. Doesn't work that way. Read it out loud, hear what you're saying, or read it with another person, which is the best way to do it. This is such a dynamic program. You could walk into a room full of gold and it would not give me what AA has given me in my life. The freedom to think and do things in the day, not to be boggled up in mind and damaged and fighting myself. And do I have moments? Absolutely. None of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. We all have our moments, but we have this great set of tools that have been laid at our feet. But it's up to us to pick them up and put them in our lives. It's up to us to pick this book up and read it every day, because we need to do this. See, the book doesn't want you to read it. The disease doesn't want me to read this book. Doesn't want me to be sitting here talking to you right now. The disease would be off, rather I'd be off squandering my life away. But I can't allow that. So it's a discipline. Nobody said, well, I remember when I first got sober, my sponsor said to me, this is going to be the hardest thing you ever did, kid, but it'll get easier. And it does. The more you put the habit in your life of doing this thing in a day, it gets easier and easier and easier. And becomes a way of life. If I get up in the morning and I go about my day and I don't do certain things, something goes wrong in my head, I got to stop. And I learned that I could stop and start my day 100 times if I had to. Looking in the mirror, I could be driving down a car and somebody cut me off, but I can look in the rearview mirror and just look at myself and, yeah, what am I doing here? Let's get your shit together here, son. I don't give my life to the disease. I will not allow the disease to take my life and run with it. I have a solution that's a much better way of life. They changed 2 things in the big book when they first changed the book around. At the beginning of chapter 5, it used to say, never have we seen a person fail. And they changed it to rarely, because never was so stringent. And they changed the 3rd step, because it used to say, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to a God. They said that was too religious, so they put to a God of our understanding. That doorknob could be my God of my understanding if it works for me. It's what you feel inside of you, a spiritual way of life. This is a spirit. This isn't a religious deal. It's a spiritual way of living. A God of my understanding. If I want to choose God to be a religious Catholic God, that's up to me. If I want to be a Protestant or a Hoodoo, whatever works. But I got to do something. I have to pick up this set of tools consistently and put it in my life. Every time I have an aggravation or every time something goes wrong, I have to stop and think of the way of life that I can pick up if I have to. Magic. Absolute magic. Imagine something that no medical team in the world can come up with. Any kind of hoodoo. Oh, take a pill for this or a pill for that. No, thank you. I got a book. I got the answers right here. But I got to read it. And I got to read it like it's written, not like a novel. I don't add words to it. I don't subtract words from it. I read the words that were in it. And Bill Wilson didn't write this book by himself. There were several alcoholics that contributed to it. He was a crazy old guy. I loved him, actually. He was kind of a neat guy. But he was a no bullshit person, like all the old timers. We used to have the first woman in AA out in LA was a woman called Alabama. She used to sit in the back of the room, right by the door, and check everybody coming in. And if you opened your mouth and mentioned anything but alcoholism, she would stop the meeting and ask you a question. What are you here for? This is AA. We do not talk about outside issues in this room. The sign outside says AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. If you have another problem, we'll direct you to a meeting somewhere in the neighborhood that you can go handle that. But when you come in this room, we talk about alcohol and alcohol only. And that's in the traditions. We have a singleness of purpose. Too many people are walking in the rooms talking about drugs and this and oh God, well, I had this problem. Oh God, you got a drug problem, go to NA. My problem is alcohol. I go to AA for alcoholism. My solution tells me that I deal with one thing and one thing only. I have a singleness of purpose, the disease of alcoholism. And if I handle my situation in the day, I don't have a problem. The promises are all there. And they're right. There are promises on every page. It's up to me to choose to put them in my life. It's up to me to do the work that I have to do. People I hear, they say, well, I did the steps last 2 years ago. I don't know how you can stay sober saying things like that. If you don't put this solution in your life every single day, you're kidding yourself. You're kidding yourself. The solution is there for a reason. It's a way to live my life today. And if I don't take advantage of that, the only person that's hurting me is me. Thanks for being sober for me today, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you for asking me to come here.
Thank you, Jack. My name's Mick. I'm an alcoholic. I loved what you said. I came to get people off my back and it didn't work. I came for me and this program works. It's what the old members used to put their arms around me and say, how is your gratitude, Mick? And I would say to them, it's great. It's really great. And they'd say, right, then this is what you will do. And that's it. I had to. And Cherie, loved what you said about the 10, 11, and 12, because, I don't want to stay as I am today. I want to grow. These were my growing steps. And, you know, we've got lots of people here. And, you know, Mossy said he made a mistake. He got 2 chairs, well, 3 chairs for tonight. And what a wonderful meeting it's turned out to be. God bless you both. Keep coming back. I need people like you. Mossy, over to you.
Thanks, Mick, and thanks, Jack. It's been an amazing meeting for me, anyways, and I'm glad I screwed up. My sponsor said to me one day, he said, if you fell into a barlush, he said you come out wearing gold, and I believe that today.
You have today.
All right, guys. Karen will read the promises.
Yep. Hello, I'm Karen. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karen. I'm an alcoholic. I just wanted to thank both of the people that chaired tonight, and I look forward to listening to the recording. The AA promises, if we are painstaking about the phases of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we've gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work.
Thank you, Karen. And I just want to thank all the co-hosts there behind me, Carol with my charger for doing the timekeeping, and thanks, Mick, for being my sidekick, and of course thanks to Jack and Cherie for joining us today. Absolutely amazing meeting. Back to you, Mick.
Right. A reminder that we have an old timers meeting on every Saturday, same time, same meeting. We also have a meeting 7 days a week, 8:30 UK time. And on Thursday nights, we have a 7:30 meeting. It's a meditation. And on Sundays, we have a 1 o'clock meeting, a UK time. All these are UK time. And the code is for these meetings are all the same as the one now.
Mick, and stick around for fellowship after the meeting. If you want to use a breakout room afterwards, we'll set it up for you. And the yellow card, who you see here?
What you hear here?
When you leave here?
Let it stay here.
That's it, guys. Over and out. Just to finish up, we'll get Cherie and Jack to lead us out with the Serenity Prayer. And again, thanks, guys, for joining us. Amazing, amazing meeting.
I agree.
Thank you all. Is Jack? Yeah, there's Jack.
Right here.
Okay. Are we ready?
We're ready.
All right. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things I cannot change.
Courage to change the things I can.
Wisdom to
Verse 51.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.